All right. So this is a presentation for Sirica Therapeutics. And my name is Yuli Cheripalli, and I'm the founder of Sirica Therapeutics. This is a picture of my daughter. Her name is Siri. By the way, she was named way before the Apple app, and that's why we named the company Sirica. Siri has autism. She was diagnosed when she was 3. She went through the usual treatment plans, which is ABA therapy, the behavior therapy, which is the mainstay of treatment for autism. But once she finished her schooling and once she turned 22, we could not find any appropriate programs for her. And so what happened was that, she became very anxious and we got worried. She started gaining weight and we had to put her on medication, and that made it worse. And eventually what worked was we put her into intensive exercise programs. And luckily we found some good coaches. And so she had, 3 to 4 days a week of intensive exercise. And what we saw was amazing results from that. Number one, the anxiety came down. And so we tapered her medication and eventually stopped it. And we were able to, get her weight back down to the normal range because she was not anxious. So she was not eating that much. So her appetite normalized. So here our target is autism. Autism is the second most common neurodevelopmental disorder. And of course, there are many challenges. And it's a spectrum. So there's a full range of disability that is associated with it, or challenges, I should say, with communication, social interaction, and behavior. And it's a lifelong condition. So we need to figure out, how to manage it. Our mission is to create a new digital therapy for autism. We're calling it cognitive sensory motor therapy. And I'll explain to you how that works. But first, the problem is that the treatment and therapy for autism takes anywhere from 20 to 40 hours a week of therapy, which means you need a lot of therapists and there's not enough therapists. And there's not many options for adults with autism. So the problem we're trying to solve is access to care and the total cost of care. So here's our solution. What we did was we picked these pieces of technology and put them together as a software solution. Advanced robotics, virtual reality, and video gaming are the 3 ingredients. And of course, we stitch it together with machine learning. So here is how it looks. So that was our study of 9 patients. We were looking at safety and feasibility. And by the way, we do have an MVP, minimum viable product. And this is our second prototype. So the third prototype is what will go into the market. But our hypothesis is that when you combine a physical exercise with a mental exercise, so here the physical exercise is actually riding that exercise machine, And the mental exercise is actually playing the game, the video game, and following the rules. When you put these two things together in a deeply immersive state, our hypothesis is that that will decrease symptoms. And if you do it long enough, it'll increase neuroplasticity and create new neural pathways for the benefit of the patient. And that's our hypothesis. And so what we did so far is we raised about $200,000, $100K as a loan and $90,000 as equity. We built out the initial team. We got the advisory board. We got the licensing. We're starting FDA and intellectual property work, and started writing grants. We do have a couple of clinic partners, potential clinic partners. Today I spoke with one university in the New York area that they are very interested in trying it out on their students. They have about 200 students that are on the spectrum. And we also finished our 9-person safety and feasibility study. So the study was mainly to look at, will a person with autism sit on the machine, put on VR goggles, and actually do what we want them to do? And so 100%, every one of these 9 people were able to do that. The average time on the machine was a little less than half an hour. And there were no untoward side effects. We were worried about people getting scared, people getting freaked out with the sound or the sights. And also we were worried about the pressure that it might cause, the seat belts and the VR goggles. So we were able to solve all those problems. There was another big issue that we had to, decide for ourselves. What happens if there is a person who is a low functioning person who cannot speak, and how do you teach them to use the machine? And there were actually 3 individuals like that, nonverbal and low functioning. And they did fine. Within a couple of minutes, they figured out how to use the system, and they did very well. So now that we have this baseline study, we want to go to the next level. And before that, I wanted to talk a little bit about the market. We think this market is about $500 million. And this is from a pharma study on talking about how the pharmaceuticals market is for autism. Currently, there are no drugs that are specifically designed for autism. And so the market is growing. We don't know why, but there is, 8 to 10% annual growth for the last 20 years or so. And currently there are about 7 million individuals with autism in the US. And it is growing in other countries also, especially in the Middle East and Asia. We are seeing this growth, and we don't know why. Some of the people think that, it is more people being diagnosed because there is increased awareness of autism. That may be partly true, but that cannot answer why this is constantly growing for the last 20 years. So what is out there in the market? So the standard is, on the left-hand side, ABA therapy, applied behavior analysis. That is the standard of care. And of course, supported by speech therapy and occupational therapy. There are drugs, but they are generic drugs, that are antipsychotics, antidepressants. And, as expected, they do have side effects. On the technology side, there is a company that is building virtual behavior therapy using virtual reality. Now, it is not much different from the ABA therapy. ABA therapy, you need a person. Here, they're doing it virtually. On the video gaming side, there is a company called Akili, and they have developed a video game that was FDA approved for the treatment of ADHD. And so things are moving on the technology side. Things are stagnant on the drug side and one-on-one therapy side. And that's why there is a big market need for a scalable solution that is a digital therapeutic. So we are creating a new category of therapy here. This is the usual graph that we have to show that, it'll be a lot of work, clinical studies. We continue to plan for our next study. The first 3 years is going to be our R&D and clinical validation of our hypothesis. And then we think that once the machines are in the market, they'll generate about $150,000 a year per machine. Now, where do we put these machines? They would be in clinics. They could be in schools, because there were a couple of school systems asked for it. And they could be in daycare programs for adults. So these are all potential locations where we can provide this system. And the way we generate revenue is through monthly subscription fee. And also the machines will be leased to the customer. This is our team. Well, my experience has been mostly at Kaiser Permanente, Anthem, or Elevance, where my specialty is designing AI solutions for physicians. And that's what I did at Kaiser Permanente, although AI was not there yet. But right now, there are 21 hospitals that use my platform that I built for them. For the last 5 years, I've been a founder of InnovatorMD and developing this network of individuals who are interested in innovation. And we started this company in last year, in February of last year. So it's a little bit over 1.5 years old. And we already have an MVP from our manufacturer partner, Torque3. And we also have our first clinical study under our belt. Izzy Kohler is our science lead. She is a physical therapist and also has data science background. She's a PhD student currently and will be joining us full-time if we raise the money and get this to the next stage. Shelley London, you must have met her just now. She's in the meeting. She's our business associate and partner. And she's a serial entrepreneur and has been the CEO of several companies. That's our team right now, but of course we need to expand our team. Here are our advisors. Tim Lacey is a psychiatrist, and he does have a son with autism. And he's the chief science officer at Torque3, which is the manufacturer for this machine. Doreen Grandpichet is a clinical psychologist and executive director, or she was the executive director of CARD, which at its peak was 400 clinics throughout the nation. And I think she sold it to a company, and now she is doing other consulting work. Jobin is a technologist with GE Research. He works with on projects with Navy SEALs, especially monitoring data and tracking data. Lawrence Fung is an MD PhD from Stanford. He's a professor there. He runs the neurodiversity clinic. He's our academic advisor, and he does have biotech background. So in summary, it's a new digital therapeutic, and it's an early stage company, experienced team. I'm a serial entrepreneur. It's the first we already have our first clinical study under our belt, and it's a rapidly growing market. We are raising $800,000 in this first pre-seed round, and we have already raised 200,000 of it. So we need 600 more. And what are we going to do with it? Mainly our target or milestone is to do a pilot study with about 25 or 30 individuals and do it for a period of 4 weeks, so that we can actually track and see the outcomes. Mainly, we're looking at, how does this treatment affect the symptoms? So mainly it's the effectiveness study. Of course, we are applying for FDA and other grants. We need to build some more tech, and we need to build our team, and that's where the money will be used. I'll close with a statement from a participant's mother. Cohen was one of the individuals in our study that you saw in the video, and this is what she said. After Cohen did one session in the morning and they went home, and this is what she emailed me. It's an unsolicited feedback. So in other words, it is doing something to people that maybe it is calming them down. So we are very excited about this finding, and I'll stop sharing so that I can answer some questions. Let me make sure.
Dr. Uli, I said something in the chat, but I couldn't resist myself and I wanted to say it, right? I have been very fortunate to meet Siri, and she is, a lovely girl. I was very inspired by her positivity in spite of the challenges that she's facing. And I was so inspired that, for no business interest of mine, just out of my curiosity, I actually went to Salt Lake City when he was doing the, trials with the kids. And I attended a live session of a gifted child, who had serious autism, was so skeptical and so scared to get on the machine. And the transformation that I saw in 10 minutes, words cannot describe it, right? So, I just I couldn't resist. I'm sorry, Dr. Uli, to take the thunder away from you, but I saw that and I wanted to share my experience.
Yeah, I know. I just realized that you were in the video. I was explaining to you, I think, I saw your back in the video. But yes, that is what drives us. If you saw the smiles on their faces after the session, you should see their faces before the session. They were, scared and apprehensive. And that one girl that you said, I thought she would never do them, she would never go on the machine because she was so scared about everything around her. So thank you for that comment. Thank you for sharing that, Viresh.
Really, I want to say something, that your dedication to the children, family, that is just undeniable in that sense that you're doing something. Did you follow any large scale studies either in the Defense Department or anything like that, and the PTSD, the virtual reality VR cameras? I saw some studies, but have you seen a large scale study, anything related to PTSD or autism spectrum?
So there are studies. Yeah, of course, we did extensive research, and Izzy Kohler, my partner in this, she's amazing. She is a great researcher. She collected data on different aspects of this solution. Number one, VR. Okay, what does VR do to people? How does it work? She did robotics. How do robotics work, and is there any connection between how autistic individuals react with robots? And then exercise. She did extensive research because that's one of her areas. Human performance is one of her areas of expertise. So she got the background information on that. But here's the key. Nobody put all these together as one solution. That's the difference, I think. So if you can imagine, you're taking an adult out to a especially a nonverbal and behaviorally challenged adult into an exercise facility, and having them exercise is very difficult, and it needs 2 or 3 individuals. You need a special coach who is willing to work with the individual, and still there's no guarantee that this person will actually do the exercise. This person could be a 6'2" individual, 200 pounds and very strong. And how do you, and nonverbal, low functioning, in quote unquote, how do you make them exercise? How can you give them that benefit of exercise? So that's the number one thing. We see that with VR and that deep immersion, they feel as if they are inside the game. And then as they start to pedal and as they start to explore the environment, they realize that this is so much fun. And so that's what attracts them to actually continue doing that, right? And that's where, you can think about dopamine, it hits the dopamine receptors. And so you get that dopamine rush and you're excited, you want to do it. But then this is, since the exercise machine is controlled by software, we can make it slowly harder and harder and harder.
Like a feedback loop.
Exactly. And so they will not realize that they're actually exercising, but subconsciously they're just enjoying their time there. But as you exercise and you get the next feedback, which is, from exercise, you get the endorphin hit, right? Like most people who run and who exercise, they get that endorphin high. And so that keeps them for the rest of the day. We think that's what keeps them calm and well regulated so that they can continue with their daily activities. And that's our hypothesis. And we have to run these tests to prove that.
Question for you, it's a quick question for you related to autism spectrum. Do you think why there is so much explosion of the autism spectrum, and not only here, everywhere in the world? What is the reason you think, or what is we need to address this problem in such a large scale? Why we are failing to address that at the national level, at the policy level, at the highest levels, where nobody is taking care of it? What do you think of it? This just a general question to you.
Yeah, it's a major challenge. Autism is growing so fast, and nobody exactly can pinpoint why. Of course, there is some evidence that there is a epigenetic combination of epigenetic factors and the environment and some way interacting, but there's no way to know at this point exactly why it is growing. All we know that it is growing, and some people say, oh, it is just overdiagnosis. But overdiagnosis, when you do overdiagnosis, usually you see a blip, and then and then it gets back to the baseline rate. But here, this is continuously going up and up every year for the last 20 years, and so that is a little scary.
It is alarming rates.
Yeah. Let's see.
Thank you. Your dedication is appreciated.
Sure.
Can I jump?
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
Man, there's a lot to unpack here. It'd probably take a 2 or 3 hour conversation with me, but so just as a background, I also have autistic kids, two of them that are adults. I did about 8 or 9 years of my career in integrated medicine with autism, and tried to do clinical research on that. I know Doreen very well. She worked with us. She reacquired CARD, by the way.
Oh, she did?
Yeah. She didn't like the direction it was going. So that's what I
hope she got a good deal.
Yeah, hopefully. But there's lots of challenges with clinical research in autism, most of which is controlling the variables. Because there's so many variables, and because of the spectrum nature of it, makes it really difficult to have good controls. So there are ways that you can get around that in research design, and Doreen's very good at that. And in fact, I did a HBOT study with her in kids with autism, but she's really good about how to do it. But it's tough to do because it's small scale. It's very hard to do it in a large scale to find the efficacy, you know, because there's lots of variables. And now I definitely believe the concept, and I can tell you from my own experience with my kids. You know, my son Aaron, who's now 25, has had, you know, lots of self-regulation issues and anxiety and all kinds of stuff. And exercise has been critical for him. He's now run 5 marathons.
Wow.
And you know, it has become, you know, just, I mean, that's a very important, and you know, like Siri, I've kind of followed her story along a bit. You know, learning how to communicate was a big part of that for him. Also, you know, learned how to spell and do some other things that helped dramatically decrease his anxiety, because it's allowed them to, you know, express their inner thoughts, which I think is a huge part of what's driving that. But you know, getting back to your product, I think that it sounds very interesting, sounds very useful. I think ultimately, you know, I'd love to kind of look at your clinical research designs and see what your thoughts are going forward with that. I think for it to ultimately be successful as a therapeutic, it needs to be widely accessible within the home. And so I would encourage you to think of how to use what you learn from the technology to make it, whether it's, you know, virtual reality goggles that they can do on their own, you know.
So the ultimate goal is to have a home product.
Yeah, because especially if we're talking about neuroplasticity, that's only going to happen if that's going to you know,
it's a continuous
repeated thing. And you know, if they have to make an appointment and happen to be in a center, you know, or close enough to a center where they can go do it occasionally, you know, there only few people will probably be able to access it.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are just my initial thoughts, but I love what you're doing, and I love that you're doing it for, you know, and that you're focused on adults with autism, who, you're right, after school is over with, you know, it's like falling off a cliff. And, you know, so we're, I think, in the same shoes and trying to figure out how to make that work for our own kids and, you know, by extension, all the other millions of people that have to face it. So anyway, thank you for your work.
Thank you, Brian. Before I go to Ivy, I see your hand raised. You know, one of the things that we are doing is, you know, since we are planning to go to a crowdfunding platform, we need 300 people or 300 families saying that, yes, this is, you know, this could work, and I'm interested in investing a minimum of $250. That's all, $250. And we need about 300 people saying that. So I would encourage anybody who thinks that this is a potential therapeutic, please go to the website, and Shelley can put that website in the chat, and please go there and sign up there. It's just, you're saying that this is a good idea and we want to support this. Ivy, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, you know, when he was talking about incidence, the incidence over the past 30, 40 years has gone up from 1 out of 10,000 to 1 out of 40. It's pretty scary stuff. I was lucky because my son was, you know, high functioning, so that we were lucky. His exercise was that he was a choreographer. He literally did musical theater for so many years, and he went through, you know, 10 shoes a day and did a lot of dancing. And that really was his exercise. So he never got heavy, and he never had to go on medication, lucky for us, no Risperdal and other meds. And the one thing that I saw in your presentation that I loved, the whole presentation is excellent. And one of that visual of the video gaming was something he did all his life. I mean, he did that on his own. I didn't even present it to him in raising him. I just did it. I found it out that he loved video games, and he was doing it in his room. And then he asked me for Christmas and other things. For get presents was always a video game, and then upgrading it over time. He was a very visual learner, and I wonder whether, in regards to your video gaming, whether that's also not only endorphins, but it's also maybe increasing the, visual processing, which really helped his cognitive, because he went to UC Irvine, graduated with honors. He's pretty amazing. He was,
Yeah.
He graduated from Burlingame High. And when he did that, he was with two girls who were 5.2s or something, 4.2s. And I said, why did you pick Seth? He's in special education. They said, because we've never had a kid like this that's so high functioning. And he was a 4.0, basically. But when he graduated, what I noticed is he got into UC Irvine and continued the musical theater and the visual additions, which actually helped him not only with his cognitive function visually, but it also helped him with his writing. Now, he did have to have a writing coach to help him, but he was a very fast reader, and he actually pulled out the information from the book. He'd read a large book of 900 pages. He'd do that in days, and he'd pick out the right quote for his essay. But what he couldn't do is correlate the writing part, the output. And that was interesting to me. Once he got the coach to help him, though, because he had good IQ, he was able to actually do that. So it's pretty amazing what you can do with somebody when they're assisted in the proper way. And he definitely was visually assisted.
Yeah. So, one of the challenges for parents is, obviously, not everybody, is
In that level.
Yeah, at that level. And also, parents don't have the resources to be able to do that, right?
Right, for sure.
Number one, you need to know, you have to have the knowledge that, oh, these are the things that you should be doing. And then they may not have the support system, they may not have. And so one way to solve that is, trying to put that into a machine and then be able to systematically be able to study it. Now, all that data is going to the cloud where we collect it and see what is working and what is not working, and then track their symptoms and follow that. So we're targeting anxiety, behaviors, and sleep. Those are the three big.
Yeah, that's a major issue. And the thing is, I was one of those doctors and mother things that I wore two hats. Lucky for him, because when he was growing up, they didn't have any adult resources.
Yeah,
really zero. And I had to create it as I went along. I literally, as a mom, and a doc, had to put together resource programming for him so that he could get into college if he wanted. So that
by the way, even now it's not much better.
I know, but I do at least have some resources I can offer in an educated digital course that I've done, so that other parents don't have to, figure it out like I had to do step by step. And it's really paid off, obviously, knowing those resources. But I didn't have any when I started. I was literally at base zero. Yes. So lucky for me, I was able to create it and learn as we went along, and it's worked out well.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
It is kind of proof that the visual channels are occupied in VR. 80% of the visual channels are occupied. That's a good part. Yeah. It's actually proven fact. There is the influence of the visual channels on the VR through the VR. So I think that's what you are mentioning, Dr. Ivy. That's would be one of the things that the benefit of this VR and gaming process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me go through the chat here. Susie says, "Love the quote." Thank you, Susie. Viresh, Adam, thank you, Adam. Phenomenal creation. I'm in awe of this product. Chitra says, commendable product in action, changing lives. Thank you. Susie says, I need this for me. Don't we all need it? All right. Any other questions? Ellen Murphy says, so impressed. I'm sure I'll get a lot of feedback from my colleagues at Founder Institute about this presentation. Hey, you said you have to cover this and this and this. How come you didn't do it? So I have to practice what I preach. Thank you very much, everybody. So please make sure, if you like what you see, please make sure you sign up to support us. And this is so that we get enough people signing up, and then that is needed for us to be able to go to a crowdfunding platform and to be able to put this company up there. They want to see the community support. So that's why we're asking you.